think I've got it fixed.
Hey.
Okay, I think we may. I just needed to push a button on this side. Great. So we can carry on. But yeah, I think audio drop, well, it helps people who have, you know, issues, whether it's disabilities or, you know, time constraints and things like that. But it certainly helped me, so.
I remember hearing an interview with Stephen King, which is pertinent to our conversation today. And Stephen King said he hadn't really been into audible books, but he's got into them as well, mainly because you can take them anywhere and you can listen to a story anywhere. It's just such a delight.
So it's now, I can see it now at the bottom of my screen. The
yeah, it is
YouTube,
going.
it's now working.
Yeah, it is. So. Okay, so we'll, I just need to find out how I can mute this so I don't have the echo now. Can I mute you in any way?
Well, I've just muted my YouTube picture, and so it's not interfering now because it is lagging, as you say.
Yeah, there is a bit of lag. That's better. There you go. I did have it muted and it wouldn't. Oh, that's what it was. Okay, so it wasn't that. Okay, so the next story that we have now, we've got that fixed and our technical issues are over. And I hope it captured everything that we just did. So the next story, I think, is one of yours, Simon Clark. So we've got Execution Dock.
Oh, Execution Dock. Okay.
So anyone who's not reading, just mute.
Right. Okay. Execution Dock. 3 tides wash over me. I'll start again. 3 tides washed over me before you covered me in tar, but still I see you sail by, laughing at me in my cage above the Thames. A final resting place, you see my empty eye sockets, strips of putrefying flesh, the wind jerking my bones when there is no wind. I'm still here, dreaming of Port-au-Prince, my woman, my gold. I see you sail by and I am laughing. Voodoo promised I would live forever, and so I am, as I drip contagion into the water you all drink. My pestilence will be in your city forever.
I really do enjoy the short horror stories. They're the best. I've gotten really into travels. They're really hard to do, but I like the constraint of the 100 words exactly. It shows you exactly what is important about a story. So who's next? I think it's me. Okay, so let me get my story up, and the next one will be. Where am I? Okay, so. The next story is mine. It's called The Intruder. A series of creaks rippled through the house. I sat up in bed. I nudged my husband, who lay beside me. He groaned but didn't stir. The creaking got louder, moving through the house towards the bedroom, getting closer and closer. I shook my husband again. "Mike," I hissed. He groaned. "Mike!" "It's just me," I heard Mike call from the hallway. I thought I heard somebody walking around the house, so I got up to check it out. But it's okay. All clear. I turned to the dark figure lying beside me. It sat up, red eyes gleaming. Done. So, that one. And then the next story, I am going to be reading out for Edward Swan. So it's called Mirror by Edward Swan. So, Jack Cadan had been a police detective for more years than he cared to remember. Having grown up and worked in London all his life, he had acquired a cynical outlook dealing with city criminals. He knew how to handle himself and could hand out rough justice if needed. The most important thing to Jack was his family. He had 2 teenage children, twins, a boy and a girl. It was no coincidence he named them Jack and Jill. Growing up in London was no fairy tale. He knew they would be made fun of, but he also knew this would toughen them up, and it did. Jack was approaching retirement and was looking for a place in the country. The estate agents had sent him notifications of a place that looked ideal. It had just come on the market that day. The price was good, the previous owners had moved away and wanted a quick sale. Jack had arranged to pick up his 2 children after school. He thought they should view the place together, but it was Halloween and the children wanted to celebrate. Jack didn't believe in all that stuff, so with typical teenage attitude, they sulked all the way there. The house sat at the top of a hill with a long tree-lined drive. Obviously like their privacy, observed Jack. As they approached the house, Jill pointed excitedly to a window at the very top of the house. Look, it's got an attic. When the car stopped, Jack and Jill rushed off to explore the attic, while their father went off to explore the garden. Running up several flights of stairs, they finally reached the top of the house and stopped in front of the attic door. You go first, said Jill, trying to catch her breath. Jack laughed and opened the door slowly. Darkness greeted them, and the smell of dampness hung in the air. He cautiously walked over to the window and opened the dusty, tattered curtains. Daylight suddenly filled the room. Looking around, they saw cobwebs hanging from the rafters and dusty old furniture scattered around untidily. They started exploring. Jill noticed a tall object standing alone in the corner of the room, with a cover thrown over it. She pulled off the cover, and when the dust had settled, she found it was a mirror, with a sign hanging over the top. It read, "Do not look into the mirror." Tell a teenager not to do something, and chances are they'll do it. Hey, Jack, look at this, said Jill as she stared into the mirror. Jack turned to look, and at that very same moment, Jill let out a scream as a pair of arms suddenly appeared from the mirror, grabbed her shoulders, and pulled her into the mirror. Jack stood wide-eyed and speechless, trying to work out what he had just witnessed. Then he rushed over to the mirror, calling for his sister. But she was gone, and the mirror was blank. Then he noticed the sign above the mirror. "Dad!" yelled Jack, then ran down the stairs and out into the garden. He saw his father by the garden shed, ran over to him and told him what had just happened. His father could see by the horrified look on his son's face that this was no joke. He grabbed a couple of tools from the garden shed, placed his hand on his son's shoulders, then looking deep into his eyes said, "Listen carefully. This is what we're going to do." After confirming the plan with his son, they made their way back to the attic. Jack stood in the doorway, his eyes searching every corner of the room. Then they made their way over to the mirror. His son stood in front of the mirror, and Jack stood to one side, out of view. His son then stared into the mirror. Suddenly a dark figure appeared. 2 arms sprung out and grabbed him by the shoulders. But he was ready. He quickly grabbed the arms by the wrist and pulled them out further. Jack then swung into view and snapped a pair of handcuffs onto them, then quickly slipped a garden hoe in between the arms and twisted it a full 180 degrees, flipping the dark figure onto its back. The figure let out a horrific howl as they both pulled it free. Quickly, Jack picked up the garden spade and thrust it against the figure's throat. Placing his foot on the spade, he pressed firmly. "Now you listen to me," said Jack in a menacing tone. "I don't know who you are, but if you don't release my daughter right now, I'm going to release your head from your body. Understand?" The figure stopped resisting and slowly raised its cuffed hands and signaled to something inside the mirror. Suddenly, Jill stepped slowly out of the mirror. "Jill, are you okay?" asked Jack without removing his eyes from his captive. "Yes, Dad," said Jill tearfully. Jack released the pressure off the spade, then summoned the figure to its feet. Still pointing the spade in a threatening manner, he stared at the figure, looking into its deep, featureless face, then poked at it with the spade. "Now you go back to where you came from before I lose my temper." As the figure stepped backwards, back into the mirror, Jack quickly hooked the spade over the top of the mirror and pulled it over, down onto its face. the glass shattered into 1,000 pieces. As they drove away down the hill, the children looked back at the house. Jack checked his rearview mirror, and to his horror, there, sitting on the back seat between his two children, was a dark, featureless figure staring back at him. It slowly leaned forward and whispered in a sinister voice, "Trick or treat." And there was that. That was The Mirror by Edward Swan. Right. Yeah, I don't know from where it started, but we might need to read some of those earlier stories from before. Are our two Simons okay to read them again? Because I know, Simon Bell, you were having issues with your connection. So did you want to read your story again? We've got some time.
Well, I could do if you want me to, yeah.
Yeah, so I didn't realize I just had to push the button for it just did it automatically in the test. So yeah, if you wanted to read what was it, Langley?
Yes. Are you sure you can bear hearing it again?
Oh, it was wonderful. And then we'll do it in the order that we did it before, because I think the what story did we have after? We had Small. They were perfect stories to go together. So Simon Bell, if we read Langley to make sure everybody's heard that one.
Okay.
Now that our technical issues are over.
Okay. I will begin. So, Langley, an extract from the antecedent by Simon Bell. He'd come a long way to rescue Becky, a hopeless journey made with little capacity to realise the objective. After all, Peter Finch was no hero and had no superpower. As the lift doors opened in the isolated building where they held her captive, he saw a shape, a silhouette against the glare of light, tall, stooping. "Finch, I'm glad you could make it," said Dr. Gordon Langley. Peter was already standing at the back of the lift. He could not move further away, but his instincts were to put as much distance between himself and Langley, because even in the bright light of the corridor, he could not be sure that this truly was Langley. On first view, it looked like the director of the literary agency, tall, angular, insect-like. But he did not appear to be fully in focus. No matter how Peter squinted at the man, his image slid and shimmered in the brightly lit corridor. Langley, if it was truly him, looked more like a combination of slightly ill-fitting photographs of himself than the real thing. Peter wondered, horrified, if I leaned forward, would my hand go through him? And the Langley montage appeared to be having trouble locating Peter. The eyes skated over the space where Peter Finch stood. The mouth moved slightly out of time with the issuing of its words. Nothing was quite in sync. The white corridor, the streaming light, and the shimmering, dangling man, whose feet did not quite touch the ground, all combined to create an effect both threatening and nauseating. Then the voice again, like a cracked piece of vinyl. "You are expected. Please follow me." With no options, Peter followed the sliding thing along the corridor and entered a huge room, empty, or so it seemed at first. An optical illusion was in place. He felt he was standing on a shelf overlooking the wintry Norfolk countryside. Directly opposite him, across 10 meters of blue carpet, the wall consisted of a single continuous window, a span 30 meters by 3. It framed the snowy landscape outside the research park like a picture postcard. Disorientated, slightly vertiginous, it was only now that he noticed Becky. "Pete!" It was the only word she managed to say before she was shut down. Peter watched impotently as her eyes, flickering up to white, collapsed, her mind crushed to the mental floor by a noetic power, invisible but irresistible. "You need to see the power of what is possible, but first the price of my failure." It was the Langley thing which spoke. Peter had stopped, even as he instinctively jolted forward to hold Becky, to make her safe. His attention swung back to the shimmering horror, but these were the last words spoken by Langley before his first scream of pain, each that followed rising in intensity. When Peter had been a child, he'd done the wicked things which most children did. He'd explored the death of other things, weak things, things which could not resist. And like most children, he did this to flies and spiders, to ants and moths, in a mix of self-torturing fascination and horror at his own naughtiness. Watching avidly the suffering and then lamenting the pain of the creature with a leg or wing or abdomen missing, and then crushing the broken thing to make sure it was dead and out of suffering, out of the suffering which he, Peter, had caused in the first place. A child is a young intelligence learning about rules, morality, safety, and comfort or discomfort with self. Over the many millennia of human existence, of evolution, how many millions of spiders and flies have died this way? The artificial intelligence which controlled Langley, and now Becky, was also finding out about itself and the world by breaking things. Indeed, this approach was very much the ethos of the minds of those who had invented AI in the first place. And the AI was enthusiastic to break things and learn from the experience. Observe. The distorted Langley thing rose, lit from within by a light which roiled and coiled like a gelatinous belch throughout the body of the man. Langley's eyes, nose, mouth, ears all projected the oily fire, bright as the corona of the sun, visible during an eclipse, enough to make Peter look away, hand cast up, shading his eyes. It was hovering above the floor, and Peter saw that Langley's body was arched backwards, stiff, arms rigidly to his side, hands balled tight as fists, all pulsing with the white light which continued to make his head an unwatchable horror, the screams ear-piercing. Eventually the brilliance reduced to a steady white throb, and Peter could look again. Langley's pain had been consistent with a living cremation, eviscerated from the inside out. Now Peter could no longer discern the man's shape. The distortion created by the transformation of Langley continued to make everything dreamlike, nightmare-like. Eyes shielded still, he could see a tall figure, and it continued to rise a little distance above the blue carpeted floor. But Langley's condescending and contemptuous look was now lost in a white ellipse, like a white noise hole in the fabric of reality. His mouth and eyes were the only discernible features, the eyes black as two burning coals, and his mouth an O rimmed by a circle of fiery silver teeth. But all was secondary to the diminishing shrieks, which still came intermittently from his now less than human throat. Eventually, an eerie silence descended. The Langley thing continued to float, an evil smashed bug sliding in and out of vision, torn beyond recognition, but somehow, Peter knew, immeasurably more powerful for its crucifixion and baptism in air and fire, malign and full of purpose. With the room and building silent, the silence of the research centre, a meditation of steel, glass, white walls and blue carpet reimposed itself. The end.
You're muted, Kathy.
There we go.
Oh, yeah.
There you
So
go.
it's next we've got Simon Clark doing small print.
Okay. Small print. Jerry was asleep. His left eyeball pulsed and popped itself out of its socket and slithered onto the floor heading for the door. It slithered along the hallway and out through the cat flap. Cybertronic Systems organs had state-of-the-art NeuroConnect functionality. Hence the searing pain in Jerry's head, causing him to scream and tear at his face in agony. Outside, his cat licked aqueous humour from its paws and padded off satisfied, tail flicking the air. When they said there were sometimes rejection issues, Jerry assumed he might be doing the rejecting, not the other way round.
There we go. I'm not sure, where did we get to in the... Which story was the first that we did? Did we get your Nefertiti's fragrance in?
No, I don't think we got that in, actually.
Do you want to read that one next? Because
Yeah,
that was a
I'll
really
do
good
that.
one. And then...
Okay. I'll go. Right. The Nefertiti fragrance. September 1928. Alicia Kane opened cabinet number 11 to polish the glass, part of her good works for the museum. Something was different. There was a new smell, a delightful perfume. It came from the ancient Egyptian glass. The fragrance emanated from a miniature amphora. Alicia noticed an intensity to its opalescence, as though a faint glow pulsated from within. It grew in intensity. As she reached for the amphora, the heady perfume seemed to become almost tangible. It flowed out and around her, so the air seemed to shimmer. Alicia's mind ached. Her head felt full of cotton wool. She couldn't think. Suddenly she raised her arms, holding the glass aloft, and saw the shimmering air pour over her. No longer giddy, Alicia felt heat in pulsating waves spread from the center of her body, surging through her, making her limbs tremble in ecstasy. September 1929. I'm sitting in the museum library. Before me is the sealed envelope Alicia left the day she disappeared. She wrote on it, "To be opened 1 year from this date. Today is that day." Dear Howard, please excuse my selfishness. I know how much we mean to each other, but something happened. I have to travel abroad, but will be back before the year is out. I will tell you where to find me, but first I must explain and ask you to bring something with you. The magic of ancient deities has touched me. I can see other realms which inhabit the same space as our more mundane world. I have seen into the light thought to be impenetrable. Oh, Howard, I have seen into the other side and communicated with the spirits. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote that nearly every woman is an undeveloped medium, and all she needs is earnestness and self-truth to succeed. But it's so much more, my love. You can create a reality around you to live in harmony and peace with all existence. You must look to the cabinet of ancient glass and search for the miniature opalescent amphora as the sun is setting. The light will resonate with the luminescence and show you the one to take. Please do this for me, my love, and we will be together forever. Bring it to the house left to me by my aunt, 23 Highbury Close. It is 2 streets back from the avenue that borders our park. Please forgive my mysterious communication, but I know I will be ready for you by the time you come to find me. I will have so much to tell you. All will be revealed. All my love, Alicia. I carefully folded the letter and slid it back into the envelope. The clock chimed 8. The sun would soon be setting. I walked out of my office and over to the glass display. The warm rose-coloured light was settling on the pieces of antediluvian glass. I produced my keys, opened the cabinet, and waited. I left the museum with some trepidation. The address in the letter was not familiar to me. I could not recall any decent accommodation bordering the park, only ravaged attempts to develop the area. I worried I would not find the address. I walked out of the museum and into the noise and bustle of the wide cobbled street. I recalled when I had first seen Alicia. It was on a similar road, motor taxis and vans rumbling along with grand purpose. Alicia was walking down steps from a front door past black cast iron railings. A small group of children ran excitedly and to no obvious purpose between and around two furniture removal vans parked opposite. Alicia looked at them, her face relaxing into joyous expression as she enjoyed their exuberance. At that moment, I fell in love with her. She took a deep breath and moved onto the pavement, joining the rest of the strollers. It had been raining. The wet pavement reflected the light grey sky. Women wore wide-brimmed velvet winter hats. Alicia wore a more modestly sized felt hat, which suited her admirably. Lorries clattering by shook me out of my reverie. I crossed the road into a ramshackle area of deserted houses. Number 23 was derelict. I had to force open a shuttered window and scrabble across a rotten floor littered with debris. There was a closed door towards the rear of the house. I opened it. Alicia sat on a ruined armchair, her threadbare throne. She clutched one vial of Egyptian glass. Her clothes were threadbare and torn, her face sallow, with strands of unwashed hair draped down one cheek like fronds of forsaken seaweed. She lifted her head to look at me. Howard, I've been waiting for you. We have so much to talk about, to plan. Come here. Alicia, you must come with me, please. I paused, overcome with sadness. Look at you. She seemed surprised at this and glanced down at herself. What do you mean? Here, come closer so you can really see me. As I moved across the room, I noticed an exquisite perfume which grew stronger. On the periphery of my vision, changes started happening to the room. The dim light was now intensified, brightened. I glanced around and saw the space transform, the walls now softly luminescent. Looking at Alicia, I could see her true beauty, her clothing revealing glimpses of golden flesh, soft and yielding. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. I ached to touch her, to hold her, to make love to her. Oh, Howard, I see you now. Stay with me. Hold me. She pulled me into the dark fragrance of her everlasting embrace. I cannot say how long I lay there. I was found dehydrated and near death, still embracing Alicia's rotting corpse. That exquisite perfume has long disappeared, replaced by the cloying stench of putrefaction, which will haunt me forever.
Good. Okay. So, Ian, are you back with us?
I am back, yes.
Are you? We did the beginning of the stream. We had some technical issues. Are you? We might need to. We've been rereading things that got cut out at the beginning. So, are you okay to reread some of the bits that we did?
Yeah, by all means.
So, where are we? So, I don't know whether we get audio on the video. So, we might for your Countess Olga video. So I don't know whether you've got the text for that and can just read it, because I don't know whether the video audio will work. Or we can skip that one and I can post it separately.
If I do an edit, I don't know who's going to do the edit to go on the website, but I can obviously include the original video, which will have the sound on it.
Yeah, well, the live stream video will basically go up as is. I don't know whether we get the chance to edit it, but I might be able to grab it and do a different edited version.
Right. Are we recording the Zoom version or not?
Yeah, we're recording. So the Zoom version is being live streamed, so it's not being recorded because
All right.
YouTube is basically recording it.
Okay.
So I think because I couldn't get the audio to work for a video, maybe either you just read Countess Olga as a poem without any of the effects, and we post the video separate, or we just skip it and you read. I think you have Edward Swan and Noella.
Right.
Stories to read. Yeah.
Yep.
So start with whichever one that you would prefer to start with, because then after that there's only one story left, which is mine, that needs to be at the end.
Okay. So the Edward Swan one is a reread, isn't it?
Yes, the Edward Swan, Wee Willie McPherson is a reread. So if you want to give that one a go, and then Simon Clark, did your execution doc get read out on was that the first one on the stream that when it worked? Oh, hang on, let me unmute you.
I think it was, but I can read it again just to be sure if you want.
Yeah, do you know? Yeah, so Ian, if you read Edward's one, then Simon Clark can go next to do execution doc. Then you can do Noella's one, which is Robert Johnson style, and then I'll read mine. Does that sound good to everyone?
Yep, it's fine.
Okay, so start out, Ian. You do yours.
Okay, right. This is The Ghost of Wee Willie McPherson by Eddie Swan. It was a cold, dark, windswept winter's night, a night not fit for man nor beast, when Wee Willie McPherson decided to cross the moors. Nobody knows why he did it, but he never returned. Some say he went in search of the one-eyed hairy monster with bad breath and smelly feet, but nobody knows for sure. Now, on cold winter's nights, when the wind blows across the moors and howls like a banshee, turning the snow to sleet, the local people wonder, is that the ghost of Wee Willie McPherson, or the one-eyed hairy monster with bad breath and smelly feet? The end.
Okay, so then we've got Simon Clark with your one.
Okay. Execution doc. 3 tides washed over me before you covered me in tar, but still I see you sail by, laughing at me in my cage above the Thames. A final resting place. You see my empty eye sockets, strips of putrefying flesh, the wind jerking my bones when there is no wind. I'm still here, dreaming of Port-au-Prince, my woman, my gold. I see you sail by, and I am laughing. Voodoo promised I would live forever, and so I am. As I drip contagion into the water you all drink, my pestilence will be in your city forever.
Right, now, Ian, all that is left for you to read is Noella's story. You're muted, Ian.
Yeah, okay, right. Robert Johnson style. Zelda storms through the door of our cheap motel room, rain droplets splashing as she turns to hang her raincoat, her tight curled hair erupting over her bony shoulders. I did it. The door slam earns us another flurry of bangs on the wall we share with Mr. Shagalot and the endless parade of ladies of the night. I stuff the pillow against my face and feel the dent of her weight on the mattress. Wake up, Layla, come on, she pokes at my ribs through the covers. I groan. The migraine hasn't lifted after an afternoon nap, and I can see some ripples of light in the milky reflection on the old television screen in front of our twin beds. Those ripples are not real. That's how I know it's a bad one. Go on, Lila. You need to hear this. Zelda pokes me again, harder. Did you bring any painkillers? No, but listen. I turn away, my mouth thick and tasting of broccoli and Stilton. I really did it. I went to the 61 and 49 crossroads and called upon the devil. Jesus, Zelda. I asked you to get something from my head, and you go chasing some stupid urban legend? I sit up slowly, eyes half opened as the pressure builds at the base of my nose. All right, I'm sorry I forgot your pills. But it's all true, Layla. It's not an urban legend, she says, curling her fingers in the air, punctuating the last two words. The devil loves the blues, and he accepts souls. Zelda, please, tell me you didn't forget. Tell me you're just messing around. Nope, totally forgot. She has a wide smile, like she's stoned or something. I was busy swapping my soul for some sweet guitar-playing skill, Robert Johnson style. You're so full of bull. Zelda, some water may help, maybe even a shower. Then it seems I'll have to find my own pain relief. But it's true, girl. That's the reason we came all the way here, so that I could become the best guitar player in the world. What are you talking about? We're just visiting the south of USA, a bit of tourism. Grabbing some clothes from my suitcase, I head to the bathroom. Now, why don't you quit fooling around and get me something before my brains start to leak out of my ears, hey? You're not listening. I got to the crossroads and I pricked my thumb and dropped some blood on the soil. I called the devil. It did bloody hurt, you know. I want to shut her up, but my mouth is full of water. It all went quiet. The rain stopped and the devil was just standing there. So I told him all I wanted was to play and be the best. Zelda, you don't even own a guitar. I close the door and climb into the shower. By the time I get out, my head is pulsating. Zelda's nowhere to be seen, and no pills have magically appeared. What a fantastic friend I have. As I get ready to leave the motel, wondering how to get to the nearest pharmacy without a car, she shows up. There's a dishevelled case in her hands, and the sight of it makes my stomach churn. What's that, Zelda? What do you think? She answers, not looking at me. Shit, she went and got herself a guitar. How did you pay for it? We've barely enough to get back home. Doesn't matter. This is my ticket to fame and fortune, to posterity, don't you see? She brings out of the case an old electric guitar, all chipped and grubby with fingerprints. She must have bought it in a pawn shop, but still, we sure can't afford it. How much did it cost, Zelda? We have no money. My head is pounding, nausea raising in my throat. Answer me. Doesn't matter, Layla. She's stroking the damn thing, sitting down to play the few chords she knows, eyes half closed. How much, Zelda? I shout at her. More knocking on the wall. I get no answer. I stare at her, not believing it. She's blown our budget on that piece of crap. How are we going to get home? I can't stand it. I grab the car keys and make it to the closest pharmacy. Painkillers washed nicely with some beers, and although the migraine has not quite left me, I'm ready for some more booze. Zelda's not the only one allowed some fun. I wake up beside another body in an unknown bed and manage to slide away into the light of dawn, avoiding awkward conversations with a stranger. The walk of shame feels right as I cross the car park to the motel bedroom. Zelda's either asleep or, even better, worried sick about me. Either way is fine. The lights are off as I squeeze through the door. Layla! Oh good, she's been waiting for me. Please help me. There's a squelchy sound, a mixture of sliding and wet cloth I cannot place. What? Please help, she whispers. I open the curtains and turn around. I can't stop. She's sitting in the same position I left her in last night. Her fingers a pulp of flesh crawling over the neck of the guitar. Blood trickles down, soaking the bed covers. I said I wanted to play and play, she sobs. That's the end, I think. Hold on. That's it. That's the end.
Yeah, very good. So that was Noella's story, wasn't it?
Yep.
Okay, so that means there's only one last story, and that one's mine. So let me just grab it up. And so my story is called Stay Away from Zoom. The pandemic was rough on me. First, I got furloughed, then came lockdown. I've always been an extrovert. I thrive on being around people. Still, I understood why it was necessary, and I followed all the rules. I had to find another way to get my buzz, so to speak, and kill the loneliness. That's when I discovered Zoom bombing. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's when you gatecrash a Zoom meeting and get up to mischief. Now, before you judge me, I was not one of those douchebags who came in screaming profanities or flashing my junk. I also never bombed a meeting that sounded important, like a proposal meeting or interview. If I was asked to stop, I always did. I'd come in and burst into song, do a rendition of a musical, act out a scene from a play, or bust out a comedy routine. I'm a drama student at heart. I studied theatre at university and was only working my crappy job at the hotel until I could land a good part. Most people muted me or threw me out, but sometimes I livened things up. Some older ladies I bombed wanted to join in, and I ended up giving a drama lesson. All I wanted was to get out there and get a little attention without putting anyone at risk. I didn't think there was any harm in it. Now, I'll never go near Zoom again, and neither should you. Let me start at the beginning. After yet another boring day at home, I logged onto Zoom and started looking for a meeting. I did my usual, found one, and joined. One group booted me out, another muted me, and another ended. Nobody was biting. Then I found a meeting titled Darcy's House. When I was in, I did my usual intro of, "Hi guys, I'm Jack," and then belted out the first few lines of Phantom of the Opera, but stopped quickly when I realized nobody was there. People's cameras were on, and there were 5 little rectangles showcasing a view from a camera, but there wasn't a person sitting at any of them. Maybe they'd gone on a break? But then who had let me in? There had been some kind of a waiting room. Somebody had let me in. Had I walked in on some kind of prank? I studied each little square, looking for a sign of a person. That's when I noticed something strange. The top left hand had a normal enough setup and was probably somebody's bedroom, but the next one was a kitchen, another was a hallway, another was a living room, and the last a bathroom. As I looked between them, I realized they were rooms in the same home. Several rooms had the same wallpaper and carpet, and I saw the same vase in the hallway through the open door of the bedroom. The screens flickered. No, the lights in the house were flickering. "Hello?" I called. The lights went out, pitching the rooms into shadows. There must have been a lamp in the living room and hallway, because I could see weak light partially illuminating those rooms, and a little light from the hallway leaked into the bedroom. The rest of the rooms were dark. I thought I saw movement in the bathroom, a shadow darker than the rest, peeling itself from the wall before vanishing. Then a shadow moved along the hallway wall. I studied the screen, trying to catch a glimpse of whatever cast it, but I couldn't see anything. I looked from box to box, looking for a sign of something. Then I saw something at the bottom of the bedroom screen. It looked like the top of a head slowly rising from under the desk. It rose higher and higher. Finally, I thought, whoever was running this meeting would show. I was wrong. The face that rose up wasn't human. It couldn't have been. The face was long and pale. It had no lips, just a jagged slit, and the eyes didn't have eyes, just black holes. I shut my laptop lid and threw myself out of my chair. Something felt wrong. Fear and dread made my stomach feel heavy and my body shook. I tried to distract myself with some TV. Eventually, the unease ebbed, and I started to become impressed with the prank. Such fantastic special effects. Clearly, I wasn't the only bored performer out there. Spurred on by this, I went back to my bedroom and opened the lid to my laptop. To my surprise, I was still in the Zoom meeting. I opened my mouth to congratulate the performers when I noticed everything was different. The lights were back on. No, they weren't back on. The cameras were showing different rooms in a different home. My home. I recognized my tiny bathroom, living room, kitchen, and porch. The meeting name had changed to Jack's flat. My name. My flat. The lights in my bathroom started to flicker. I rushed out of my bedroom. As I dashed by the bathroom to get to my front door, I saw a dark shape forming in the bathroom. I got the hell out of there and haven't been back since. I don't know what that thing was, but every instinct warned me it was bad news. If there was any doubt about that, it was put down when the news reported a woman named Darcy McMason had vanished without a trace. I recognized her home in some of the pictures on social media. Stay away from Zoom. There's something lurking there, something dark and dangerous. And if you're not careful, it'll get you just like it got Darcy. And there we go. So those are our stories. The only thing I suppose I should point out is this was something that we did for our members. So if this is something you're interested in getting involved in, these are things that we're looking to do fairly regularly. So you can go to our website, www.norwichwriters.com, where you can find out about other meetings that we have, both online and in person. We also have different membership options as well. And many of the events that we do like this are open to both membership groups. So we have online members, so people from all around the world can come to attend our online meetings, and also full memberships as well, but both of them. And in fact, I think Simon Bell, you're one of our in-person meetings, and Simon Clark, you're one of our online members. So of course, we've got a mixture today. So if anyone is interested in this, if you're a member already, then look out for news of other sort of live streams that we might be doing. And if you're not a member and would like to have this sort of community to be involved in, then go to our website and think about joining. So thank you everyone who joined us.